Have you ever met someone so quiet you barely noticed they were there? In my unit, that person was a recruit named David. He was small, skinny, and had this habit of just blending into the background. While the rest of us were loud, bragging about what we could do, David just kept to himself, observing. Our drill sergeant, a tough-as-nails veteran named Sergeant Stone, didn't seem to think much of him. He'd often yell, "David, you're trying to become invisible. Speak up, son." We all kind of laughed, but David would just nod, his eyes focused. He never complained, never bragged, just did what was asked of him perfectly. Our initial training was brutal. Long marches under a scorching sun, obstacle courses designed to break you, and endless drills. Most of us struggled. We'd stumble back to the barracks, covered in mud and sweat, complaining about our aching muscles. But David, he seemed almost unfazed. He'd finish every task, maybe not the first, but always with a steady, relentless pace. He was like a machine, quiet but incredibly efficient. I remember one particular day on the obstacle course. There was this massive wall we had to scale. Big, brawny guys were struggling, slipping and falling. When it was David's turn, a few guys snickered. He was so small, how could he possibly make it? He took a running start, and it was like watching something out of a movie. He found holds none of us had seen, using his smaller frame to his advantage, and he was over the top in seconds. A stunned silence fell over the group. Even Sergeant Stone raised an eyebrow. That was the first time we realized there was more to David than met the eye. He wasn't weak, he was just quiet. His strength wasn't in his voice or his size. It was in his focus and determination. From that day on, the snickering stopped. People started watching him, trying to learn from his technique. He never offered advice unless asked, but when he did, his insights were incredibly sharp and helpful. He saw things we all missed. The real test, however, came during our final field exercise, a multi-day simulation deep in the woods. We were split into squads, and our mission was to navigate a difficult terrain, evade an enemy force played by our instructors, and reach a designated extraction point. It was supposed to be the culmination of everything we'd learned. Unfortunately, I was in a squad with some of the loudest, most overconfident recruits. Our squad leader, a guy named Jackson, thought he knew everything. He ignored the map and relied on his gut, which led us straight into a swamp. Morale plummeted. We were lost, wet, and miserable. As darkness fell and the instructors closed in, panic started to set in. Jackson was arguing with another recruit, and the whole squad was falling apart. That's when David spoke up. It was so rare to hear his voice that everyone immediately went quiet. He said, "I know where we are." He pointed to a faint star formation barely visible through the canopy. "If we head that way, we'll hit the ridge we were supposed to be on this afternoon." Jackson scoffed. "And how would you know that?" David calmly pulled out his map, which was perfectly dry in a waterproof bag, unlike ours, which were now soggy messes. He had been tracking our position the entire time, even when our leader went off course. He pointed out landmarks he'd memorized from the briefing, things we had all ignored. There was a moment of hesitation. Do we trust the loud, confident leader who got us lost, or the quiet, unassuming guy who seemed to have a plan? I spoke up first. "I'm with David." One by one, the others agreed. Even Jackson, humbled and defeated, finally nodded. David took the lead. He moved through the forest with a quiet confidence that was incredibly reassuring. He navigated by the stars, the feel of the wind, and the slope of the ground. He spotted the mock enemy patrols long before they saw us, guiding us around them with silent hand signals. It was amazing. He was completely in his element. We moved for hours, following this recruit we had all underestimated. He led us out of the swamp and onto the correct path. We were behind schedule, but we were moving. As dawn approached, we saw our objective in the distance. We had made it. Just as a wave of relief washed over us, we were ambushed by Sergeant Stone and his team. It was the final test. Chaos erupted. Instead of panicking, David immediately directed us into defensive positions he had scouted just moments before. He coordinated our movements, his quiet voice cutting through the noise with clear, concise commands. We fought back, not as a disorganized mess, but as a cohesive unit. We didn't win the ambush. You're not supposed to, but we performed better than any of us thought possible. When Sergeant Stone called an end to the exercise, he walked straight over to our squad. We all tensed up, expecting to get chewed out for getting lost. He walked right past Jackson and stood in front of David. There was a long silence. Then he cracked a small smile. "David," he said, his voice full of respect. "I never thought I'd say this, but you led these men. You were quiet, but you were listening. You were watching. You were learning. That's the mark of a true leader." He then turned to the rest of us. "Let this be a lesson. The loudest voice in the room isn't always the strongest. True strength is quiet, it's competent, and it's humble." That day changed everything. David became the unofficial leader of our platoon. Not because he was loud, but because he had earned everyone's respect. He proved that you don't need to be the biggest or the loudest to make a huge impact. His strength was in his character, his intelligence, and his unwavering resolve. He taught all of us a valuable lesson. Never, ever underestimate the quiet ones. They're the ones who are often paying the most attention, and when the time comes, they are the ones who will rise to the occasion. The story of the quiet recruit is a powerful reminder that substance will always triumph over noise. That experience stuck with me long after I left the service. It's a lesson that applies everywhere in life, not just in the military. In our jobs, in our communities, we often give the most attention to those who make the most noise. We assume confidence is competence. But how often do we overlook the quiet, hard-working people in the background? The ones who are diligently doing the work, solving problems, and supporting the team without needing any applause. David showed me that true leadership isn't about shouting orders. It's about inspiring trust through action and competence. It's a quiet strength that speaks volumes. So next time you're in a group, take a moment to look for the quiet one. They might just be the strongest person in the room. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.